But in terms of the
Yeah.
match itself, I know that was the
Yes.
original question you asked me. Even coming up with before the match, like I texted you about this, but Pat McAfee announcing that Cena was going to be on his show the next day, for me felt like way too much of a telegraph coming into this match. Even though we both thought Cena was going to win, like I think he even said last episode that I was predicting like a dirty win for Cena. But even then, like even if you know that or you're assuming that's going to happen, I feel like I don't know. I feel like that's a little too telegraphed um, from a broadcast perspective. But the Cena entrance though, I really liked. Like I thought it was, especially knowing his history with entrances, like some of the most epic entrances I've seen at WrestleMania specifically. I'll always remember the one with like the 100 Cenas going down the ramp, like that lined up, and he ran. That one like always stands out in my mind, like ridiculous. But seeing him go with just like this no frills, blacked out entrance, just there to get business done, looking upset, like I don't know. I really like that entrance from Cena. I think in terms of starting the storytelling of the match, I really like that. In terms of the match itself, though, I don't know. It was kind of iffy. I felt kind of underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. And maybe there's a limit to what you can do with Cena's age. I don't know. Even though I think he's kept himself in good condition, because I appreciated the pacing in terms of the storytelling. It was slow. It was methodical. Heel Cena, big moves. Even though it started like Cody started and then Cena like rolling out, and then we see Cena take momentum for the majority of the match. Really, if you really think about it, like Cody didn't really have long stretches of being on top in the match, and even when he had that little stretch, then we kind of just go straight to the Travis segment, which we'll talk about. So it felt like kind of weird for your champion that finished that story last year, has had a solid 350 plus day reign, to not really feel that competitive in the match. I know it was dirty, so they're gonna say it was dirty, so it doesn't really show a fair competition. But I don't know. I felt that was kind of weird. But I also thought that the pacing at the end was just off. With the like all the dirty stuff that happened back to back. Like I know we'll talk about No Rock showing up, but Travis showing up. Just that whole ending felt kind of weird. Even the timing of the pin, like it felt like one more thing was coming, but then it kind of just ended. Like the timing of it, I don't know. That whole thing kind of was disappointing for me personally. I'll give it a pass only because I can get them wanting to give John this moment, and him retiring at the end of the year makes the timing kind of hard to have him win the championship any later in the year. And I feel like you have to give it to him this early to have any kind of runway with it. But I don't know. Overall, especially because The Rock didn't come out, it felt a little underwhelming for a WrestleMania, because it feels like in the past, WrestleMania, at least when I was growing up, WrestleMania really felt like the culmination, and this is where the storyline finishes. Of course, they're always going to start new storylines, but this is where like we're really building up to this. But it just felt like, this is like a part of the story, and the peak is probably going to peak at like a later pay-per-view, like SummerSlam or something. If that makes sense.
Yes, I agree with you. From the top, the entrance, I 100% agree with you. I loved it. It had shades of those who know, but the One Night Stand pay-per-view in 2006 where Cena faced RVD and he has the ECW crowd just booing him into the ring, and he kind of just has his head down and is like walking towards the ring and means all business. That's what that entrance reminded me of. So I'm all for that new Titantron, that new entrance. I was a fan of that. As far as the pacing of the match, I agree with you. I think he took on a very like old school kind of approach, and I think it was on purpose. I think the natural thing to do when you turn heel is to not give the fans what they want, right? So, for example, the shoulder tackles leading into the little like body drop that then leads into the five knuckle shuffle, right? Like that's like the classic, I guess, like big ending for a John Cena match. You saw that he was not giving into the shoulder tackles. I think he was doing them like one by one instead of like in like back to back shoulder tackles, if that makes sense. It was just a much more like slower paced match, and he was just being very intentional about not giving the fans like, okay, I know this is what you want me to do next, but I'm not going to give it to you. I like that aspect of it. I think there's some storytelling in that can't be overlooked. And then he was also doing these like interesting, like, I guess you could say like Hulk Hogan-esque like moves where it's like a double axe handle from the top rope, like a very just like low impact move, but like it was big back in like the 90s maybe. So not an exciting wrestling match, but I don't know. I think him just taking on like the whole "you can't wrestle" accusations or allegations, and then just giving us pretty like bland wrestling. I didn't like it from an entertainment standpoint, but as far as the storytelling goes, I think I was happy with it. There were also a few big boots in there, which I was like, interesting. We've never seen Cena do that either. But I can appreciate the storytelling, but yes, I am totally with you. I did not like the way this match ended. I was not a fan of the way, again, this was predictable. We predicted that Cena would win through heel antics, and what happens? The ref gets knocked out, and then there's the whole Travis segment, which I guess we can talk about now. But Travis comes in, he tries to attack Cody. Cody attacks him, gives him the crossroads, and then Cena kind of returns and gives him the low blow before. I think Cena was tempting Cody to not hit him with the title belt is what had happened, because I think Cena was about to do that to win the matchup. And as Cody's deciding whether or not he wants to hit Cena with the title belt, Cena low blows him and eventually gets the pin. That's just, I don't know. I wish we got more. And like you said, I wish we got The Rock. We saw Cena align with The Rock. Why have we not seen The Rock since Elimination Chamber? I just don't understand how that happens. I am still trusting in the storytelling. I think this may just be building up for a much higher, or just like a much more, I guess you could say, like intense payoff. But it's WrestleMania. I think you got to give the fans their money's worth. I think you got to give us a big moment. Travis Scott just wasn't enough for us, or at least for me. I just don't think that was enough to really make me happy at the end of the day. So I thought this was an underwhelming match overall. I'm happy with the result. I'm still trusting in the storytelling, but I definitely wish I was given more. I don't think we got our money's worth at WrestleMania as a whole.
Yeah, and speaking of Travis Scott, I know that's your boy, Alexi. So I'm sure maybe checking out the highlights, maybe you were excited to see that yourself. I don't know if you saw the whole Travis walk out with the Fiend and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, excited is a very assumptive term to use. See, man, it's one of those moments where I kind of just cringe. It's like, you don't gotta be doing this, man. You already got your Nike deals, you're this, you're that. I mean, this dude does so much stuff outside of music. WWE is another one of those. And this is just like, why? Like, if you're passionate about it, cool, but like, showing out now every week, it feels like, at least from what I've seen, I feel like I'm seeing him connected to WWE for like months now. And it's just random. Like, why are you there, bro? And I know these two are big names, excuse me, who were part of this match. And for him to pop out in the middle of that just seemed like it killed the vibe. I don't know.
Yeah, he's definitely not who I wanted to see. Like, he was involved.
I feel like you'd want to see someone from like WWE who would make sense for the story or whatever's going on.
Right. So this had some like previous build up to it in the last pay-per-view, but like
from like where he slapped him though or whatever, like
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but, man, that's one slap, bro. Like, that ain't enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if they happen to be very particular about finishing up that little like Travis Scott beef that had began, I don't see why you have an excuse for The Rock not showing up. Like, if we get Travis Scott, why couldn't we get The Rock? That's where I'm confused.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I didn't actually watch it, but I saw Pat McAfee, The Rock was meant to appear on Pat McAfee today. Was today? I think it was today or tomorrow. I think it was today that he was on it. So maybe there's gonna be some kind of explanation, or they're just trying to do it through the media somehow. But I don't know. Something about the way this has all gone down. Like you said, there's still room for it to be recovered. But the intersection of like WWE, ESPN, all these kind of things, I feel like it's kind of, in a way, it's adding to it, but it's kind of taking away from the main product, where it's like, really, these fans came for a climactic WrestleMania, like you said. And of course, not everyone can go out like Shawn Michaels against Undertaker, like, you know, maybe that's once in a generation type stuff. But this one, like I said before, it is about the timing too, because knowing Cena's going end of the year, so maybe that's when they're gonna go all out. But this one just felt like, okay, we'll give you something, give Cena the title, and then we'll move on from there. But speaking of, I was gonna say, coming into this episode, I was gonna say that personally, maybe this is blasphemous to say, I don't know, from the hardcore fan perspective. I know he went and did his time on the circuit, and he really built himself up from what he used to be. But I personally don't really care for Cody outside of that whole finish the story arc. Like, him as a champion recently, like, hasn't really compelled me in any kind of way. To even just watching him in segments, like, he doesn't really, like, for me, we were just talking about like greats on the mic. Like, he's not that compelling to me personally. And maybe that's just a lack of time spent watching him in recent years. But I was gonna come on here and push for a Randy angle, even before, you know, some things that happened on Monday night. I was gonna come and say, just for old time's sake, not even because of any type of coherent story, just for old time's sake, now that Cena's champion, WWE champion, I was like, in my head, I'm like, Cena, Randy, one last go. I'd love to see that. And then lo and behold, we got a little RKO out of nowhere on Raw. So maybe we're getting what I'm looking for.
Looks like that's going to be a very exciting storyline, I will say. I think the way that unfolded was great. Cena kind of coming out as this, like, there's nobody else in this company who is, to paraphrase, basically said, like, carried the weight that I carried, walks or like has the same ruthless aggression as I do. Like, all of that was great. And then to have Randy, who's kind of followed Cena in the same timeline, more or less, come out and hit him with the RKO. That was great. So I'm excited about that. Don't think Randy will win, but I think it'll be a great program regardless. I think it'll be great to see them in the ring. It'll be great to see the promos they dish out on each other. So I'm excited for that as well. And as far as Cody, man, I'm a fan of Cody. I followed his journey after he left the company the first time around. But I will say it's going to be weird not seeing the title belt on him when that's been kind of like his main identifier for over a year. Because I'm saying this is prior to him actually winning it. His big goal was to win the title, right? So he's kind of identified himself with the belt, and to now see him be taken out of the title picture, I'm interested in seeing what that does for him and what kind of rivalry he embarks on now, because we're taking him out of the title picture to put in Cena, because realistically I do not want to see a triple threat match with him and Randy. I want to see just Cena and Randy, which I think a lot of people would agree with. But I'm very interested in seeing, okay, you don't have the title belt anymore, you're not going to be chasing after it, what do you do now? So we'll see what happens there. I have faith in him. I think he's great. I think the fans have gotten behind him, so I don't think that'll be an issue. But again, as someone who has kind of identified himself with the top prize in the company, what do you now do when you're no longer in the picture is what I'm curious to see.
That's a good way to look at it. And maybe with that, like, future in mind, maybe he'll become more interesting to me, because I do feel like this is not just Cody. I feel like this happens all the time, but like say with Kofi Kingston, for example. You know, I wasn't personally following that at the time, or just people like when you really get behind someone chasing the title. Maybe even Jay recently, even though I don't know if it's on the same level, but when you really get behind someone chasing the title, like that chase creates a bond with the fans and an interest in the person that I think is hard to maintain once you actually acquire the title. Then that's when the real work begins in terms of building interesting storylines to keep people interested in you now that you're no longer on the chase. And for me, it hasn't been, at least recently, it hasn't been that interesting. Personally, like even like the whole Cena build up, like I think nothing about this build up specifically felt like I needed it to be Cody, and maybe because I know they're doing that whole, it's a whole three-way thing with The Rock, and The Rock and Cody have their history now, so that's the whole build up. But nothing about it was like, oh, I'm really invested in Cody, whether or not he keeps this title. Like for me, it was all about John, and that's biased from my time watching the show. But I'll be very curious to see what he does now that him and the title aren't synonymous. Where does he go? And maybe he does more interesting work in other feuds.
Absolutely. We'll see what happens, and you know, I'll be optimistic about the whole thing, but time will tell, and we'll see what happens with just everything. So I'm looking forward to covering this more in the future. I'm sure this won't be the last time in the near future where we cover either of these two guys or just whatever WWE hooks up in the near future.